Conservancy with the Foxborough HOA's information, and they met with them, they elected to not, want to fund those costs. The township was not going to pay to move a trail on private property. And based upon that, the trail was built as it was finalized.
That's not the understanding I got from Kevin, that the Brandywine Conservancy did not agree with Ryan Holmes' assessment of where they said the wetlands were, because Ryan Holmes said they could not move it back because there was wetlands there. Brandywine Conservancy said the flora there was not consistent with the wetlands. They asked Ryan Holmes, who did their wetlands assessment, because they didn't agree with it, they wanted to see it and it was not provided to them. So Ryan Holmes just said, well, sorry, we're not moving it. They didn't provide the wetlands assessment, they didn't answer Brandywine Conservancy's questions about the wetlands, and so it just never got moved. So it's literally in the back of our development, right up against our property line.
And that's where you're basically, when you want to build a park on Cupola, you're basically going to be building a park right on our property lines. And these are property lines with fences, with dogs, with children. Almost every person in the neighborhood that wants a basketball net or a play set already has it, because it's an established neighborhood of 25 years. So you think it's a great idea to put a park right on the property line of someone's house. It doesn't make any sense. The safety, we don't have a police department. So if something happens, state police aren't going to get there in time. So what is it going to take for you to understand that we need a police department? Is it going to be a murder? Because that's basically what it comes down to at this point. Because the break-ins aren't enough for you. The drugs, the syringes found in Uncle Park isn't enough for you. It's going to take a freaking murder. And that's really, really sad to say, because you're supposed to be looking out for the best interests of your residents, and you're not. And as a taxpayer, personally, I never received any kind of survey about Parks and Rec. So if you look at 50 people responding, it's because nobody knew about the survey.
Yeah, that original one, we're looking at 2012, and that was.
Ask everybody here who got it.
Never got it.
No,
Nobody received it.
that was at the Honeybrook Elementary Center. We set up a table and had the people respond to it. Then we floated it around, but I don't know how extensive. I don't have the list of all the residents to do a mailing, and I wrote the survey to get something feedback to our Parks and Rec. At the time, it was just starting up, and.
But if you survey most people now, I guarantee they're going to be more important. Their main concern is going to be safety over a new park. Because go to the other townships, most of the parks sit empty.
Yeah.
People aren't using that parks. The Uncle Parks sit empty. You just drive up and down all the townships. Most of the parks sit empty because most people have what they want in their own yards.
Yeah.
So it is basically, if you want to build a new park, you're having these developers come in and do developments. Yes, we know that the art ordinance isn't finalized, but you're having other developers come in. Shouldn't that be an improvement to the community versus wasting by spending taxpayer dollars when a developer can provide a park and they can design it where it wouldn't fall right on the property line of existing residents? I mean, isn't that kind of common sense?
Well, we went through this exercise with Chestnut Ridge years ago, and it went back and forth, and that's why I said at some point, trying to understand what actually got done at this point. Same thing happened in Village Green. They were supposed to get a tennis court. I don't think they didn't get the tennis court.
But why? I mean, who's saying that, why is the township not following through and making sure that this is getting done? So that's basically a failure on your part. If you're not pushing for these developers, if they're proposing it and they don't follow through with it, then that's on you.
Yep.
Not on the developers, because of course they're not going to put it in. Why would they spend their money if they don't have to?
But I did write to one of the developers. I got no response.
Yeah, exactly. When you guys allow a fee in lieu of, so they don't have to put a park in. I mean, we were all sold on marketing ploy of, we're gonna have a tot lot right in the middle of our development, it never happened. So we all paid the money and had, a place that put in our backyard.
So we don't need it.
And people have shown where they bought the homes at Village Green with, this brochure showing the tennis court a little bit, and then after they moved in, they said, "Where's the tennis court?" They said, "Not gonna get it."
There we go.
Yeah.
I think the gist is though, we're just asking if you could listen to the residents' concerns that police protection is at the top of our list right now. With all of the accidents on 322, with the break-ins that are happening, this has to be.
Are
a
being
major
installed?
concern.
Yeah. So we could make available the report that we got from Harrisburg. Unfortunately, it's dated 2014. That would be a baseline because, you know, honestly, that's what we have right now. When Chief Wilson spoke to us and he mentioned, you know, how many police officers, that came out of that report. So, and we did have the availability of another report from West Brandywine. These were proposals for regional police department. And that's one of the things that's in the comp plan to say that we should be considering law enforcement and give serious consideration to a regional police department.
Why doesn't our manager, who's a former police officer, start this initiative in this task force?
We get the direction from the board.
And, you know, so can you guys make a commitment to have a plan? I mean, vote on it, talk
Well,
about it.
Yeah. In 2014, 2015, when we did the task force, I would say I put in at least 80 to 100 hours on that.
That was in 2014, we're
Well,
2023.
that's what I'm saying. It's a 3-member board. You have to have 3 people in agreement.
With people sitting right there, you can, I mean, it's not rocket science to have discussion right now.
Well, if there's an issue, yeah, go ahead.
When Bob Stein came before,
Yes.
just a couple of questions, easy questions, I hope. For the thing on Google, the park on Google, how many acres were we talking about?
So it was the amount we're talking about?
That was 3.77.
I mean, there's a lot of land right around the corner from Chestnut Street and 322 that's just been for sale for years. It's sitting there empty. It's not like that's not available. It's a couple of acres, it's 2.5 acres on that, it's just sitting there, it's had for sale sign on for 15 years. You know, so, I mean, to this young lady's point, I don't know why we want to jam something in the backyard, and this room is bigger than that, the width of that property.
Yeah.
I don't know what you put on it, to tell you the truth, except for maybe a single or 2 tennis courts back to back, because it's livable this wide.
Yeah.
But then you're, got your balls rolling on Google and all this other stuff. But okay, the other thing though is, I want to just hone in on what you were saying with the land preservation people. If they're not going to cost us any money, it would be a shame not to have them give you a hand, tell you some things, give their input. It would be a shame not to do that.
I'm sorry,
And options.
Yes.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not going to cost the township anything. I see no reason why would anybody say no. Have her use our.
We agree that,
You
no,
just
we agree
agree
to
to
have
do
a
it.
permit.
I'm kind of hammering that because the last meeting I went to 2 months ago, the consensus was not to bring her. And so I wanted to make sure, I wanted to hear it the second time. Sorry for that, I'm getting old. The other thing though is the thing with the trail. So you know, we've already had incidents on the trail.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you might know about, or you're gonna hear more about it at the meeting. All right? And police force has to be top of the list. It is much more important than pickleball, corner, tennis, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine had their house broken into last month. They called the state police, they walked in the house at 2:30 in the morning, the house was a shambles. They were told by the state police, we can't get there for an hour. That's just not acceptable. There's 2 women living by themselves, it could have gotten really bad.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's on private land in a development that is supposed to be, you know, no trespassing. So, you know, that police force thing has to, you know, it has to be talked about, it can't be ignored.
And to the credit of the state police officers, I mean, I used to have one officer used to come to my house on a regular basis just to check in. And that's before I was on the board of supervisors. It hasn't happened in several years. You know, either he got transferred or they're just too busy. And this point. And that one dedicated police officer at one point was shared with Wallace, so we didn't have a full, one police officer covering us. And in the event that that one dedicated police officer, there's a backup, but then again, that person may not be in the immediate area. That's how we've been, the coverage that we've been having for a period of time. I can turn to the board and say if we want to explore further on the law enforcement and what's your feelings on that?
I mean, I'm fine exploring it. I mean, everybody understands that will come with a price. I mean, there's going to be a cost to it.
Rather not be dead.
I'd rather have pay a price for a police force than I would for a park and rec. I think if you did a survey, an actual survey where actually all the residents have to answer, most people would want security over a new park.
Well, what we heard a few years ago when we conducted some town hall meetings, law enforcement would always come up in all the meetings. So instead of keep saying to people we're looking into it, that's when we proceeded with that law enforcement task force. And what we emphasized on that was to look at what the options are, how much it would cost, and how much we can afford. So we may have a report telling us you need 12 officers, but we can only afford 8. But those are the numbers that we didn't have, and we still don't have those numbers. So I think the appropriate action back then was the task force, but we should, if we go that direction again, we make that commitment, follow through with it, and then be able to come back to the residents and say, these are options, this is what it will cost us, because right now we don't have those numbers. Okay.
At that time, we also got a grant from the state of Pennsylvania to do that, right? That's why we did it.
I don't recall if that was, there was any funding for that, it was just 3 municipalities working together.
No, to do the study to figure out.
It was a grant, and there's little grants out there.
Well, that was coming from, I was trying to remember what department in Harrisburg generated that. All right. Yes,
Okay, I'm in agreement with police force. I mean, I don't think anybody is it. So, money is a concern. So I say we drop this park and rec stuff. I think that we need to keep on board this 50%. And I ain't even going into that because there's a whole story of that. And Troy Stacy's out right there about this. And he's the one who was saying, everybody was here. I remember who was here that night about the public or the residents are the ones who should vote and decide if we go ahead with that or not. I remember that, John. He's the one who said we need the residents to decide. Nobody said work. Moving on. I think we should invest that money in case we ever need it because it can go into different pots, just like Warren said. And I think we should forget this EAC thing, and I think we should downsize on this park and rec stuff, whatever we're doing. And we need to look into a police force. Get rid of this frivolous stuff that we really don't need, and look at what we do need. And look at the park, or look at the police force. I agree with that 100%. Who doesn't need police protection?
We need to look at the environment and what's going on.
Do you want police force or do you want environment?
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the board.
Well,
And that's-
So, yes,
Go
let's
for it,
keep
girl.
it.
Go for it, sister.
Okay, so did you complete?
I'm finished. Go for it. Hey, you're up.
Okay.
I think we do need environmental things. You see the changes that are going on in the country and getting slammed with tornadoes and Category 5 hurricanes and all the crap we do and put into our land. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Not to have something. What about our wetlands? What about, open space? And what about the bog turtles or even a plant that is no longer in existence, but maybe easier,
Yeah.
in one area?
Well, at the end of this meeting, I have a few slides to show on the climate action plan that starts at the state level, goes to the county level, and they emphasize the municipalities participating in that. So we'll be looking at that once we adjourn this meeting.
Well, I know two of you are totally against it, but you don't live around this area, right? Excuse me? You live around the area? Excuse me?
I laughed. I got laughed
Do you
at the other
live
week.
around the area where all these developments are happening?
Right up Chestnut Tree, yes.
Okay. Tracy?
I live over Burnell Road.
Well, you don't even live here, you know?
It's Honeybrook Township. They're all from Honeybrook Township.
Yeah, we have to be legally from.
Correct.
I understand that, but I'm saying where all these developments are coming about, you know, are you gonna be affected as we are, a lot of us are, in regards to traffic and, you know, everything else?
To your point, we can have the opportunity after the end of the meeting, take a look at, what I'm looking at is the state climate action plan that was adopted by Chester County. And I participated in one of the discussions recently where they were looking for potential for solar farms and everything in the county. You know, there's a lot of discussion going on throughout the county, and I wanted to bring that to the residents' attention. We should be aware of it, and if we have an interest or a desire to participate in any of this, you know, we have the COG, the regional COG, that's an avenue that provides us with that access. Go ahead.
Just real quick, with regards to that, is there any kind of group in this area or even Chester County that deals with like chemical spills, you know, like the train derailment issue? Is there any group in Chester County that deals with that?
So
Do
we
you
do
have
have
any?
responders, and you know, they are trained. There's certain levels of training and stuff that the county must ensure that we have those responders available. There's a training center in,
Well, not necessarily saying like
Yeah.
how to clean it up, it's just dealing with the hazards and the safety associated with that.
yeah. Well, yeah, I know a few people that work as first responders that provide the training in South Coatesville and the training facility, but off the top of my head, the whole organization, I don't know how it's set up.
I think at the county level, there's emergency,
Chester County has to have one as well.
has
There we go,
emergency management,
They have a response.
coordination.
Yeah, yeah, I'm saying, no, that they do, I don't know the details of, yeah.
So maybe private companies that they summon to
Yeah.
actually do some of the work, but the county does.
Because part of our COG meeting, we would have a representative from the emergency services, and he would give us a monthly update on, incidents throughout Chester County, and give us the stats on that. His name is Tony, and Tony Chosen, and so there again, through the COG, the Council of Government, we're able to get another source of information. Any other questions before, let's say, looking at what we have now? Anyone on the Zoom call? Anybody left?
Yeah, this is Stacy Darby. I live on Dawn Lane. And
Okay.
I just wanted to say, just as others have said about the police in the parks, as a mom and a career nanny, I wouldn't feel safe taking my little ones to the park, knowing that there isn't police presence with all the new developments and so many people coming in here and not having the police to respond quickly. I don't know that I would even utilize the park that was near me. I would drive somewhere else where I felt safer, because without a police department, it just doesn't make sense. And it upsets me and it scares me. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents like everyone else did. But I agree, police department needs to be on the top of the list of things that are needed before a park.
Thank you, Stacy. All right. At this point, I call for adjournment. Do I hear? All in favor? Aye. Could we put the PowerPoint slides up on the screen? Sure. So you don't have to stay if you don't want to. This is just put together a few slides, as I said, for the purpose of introducing you to the climate action plan. If you have heard about this, you know about it. If you you go to the state website or Chester County, they have a lot of information there. So initially, I just put up here climate action plan. Could you move to the next slide, please? Good evening. If we go to the next slide. Yes, the next one, please. So that's the cover of the pamphlet. That came out in 2021. And what they're looking at is a local climate action program. So if you were to go to the website, you're looking at how the municipalities and residents throughout the state can look at some of the climate action that's going on. So they're saying here, having state and local governments lead by example on climate action is the key component of migrating climate change in Pennsylvania, and one or more strategies that's in that Pennsylvania Climate Action Plan. DEP's local climate action program provides free technical and personnel assistance to local governments that want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that's on the clean energy approach, and addresses climate change. So this is one aspect of the overall program that they're offering. And it gives you information of who to contact, the phone number there. Could you move to the next? All right, so then in the Pennsylvania Climate Action Plan, this is going back almost 2 decades now. And so it's based upon Acts of 2008. What they're looking at is identifying greenhouse gas emissions. A lot of our roads, if you travel on 202 and stuff, you know what it's like with the heavy congestion. Cost-effective strategies for reducing and offsetting these emissions, identifying cost benefits, co-benefits, and reduction of strategies recommended. Identify areas of agreement, disagreement among committee members. We recommend to the General Assembly legislature changes necessary to implement the plan. In addition to DEP and the Chester, that's the Climate Change Advisory Committee, my CCC, I think in Chester County, on these acronyms. Next slide. Thank you. All right, here's an example of what the state was able to do on to look at potential flooding, and with the GIS information, project out certain conditions and stuff, and this is, helps this particular community look ahead for potential environmental dangers from flooding. Right? So that's one of the services that came out of this. That's the one case study out of several. Now I'm going to take a look at the Chester County Climate Action Plan. So this is what Chester County did, adopting several of the things that the state has provided. And I can provide this PowerPoint if you like. All the URLs are on the page that you can go to. So that's the program document. You can see it was 2021 that was adopted by Chester County Commissioners. If we go to the next page there. So it's Chester County's vision for climate action is to reduce the county's contribution to global climate change and equitably improve the health and well-being of the community by reducing the greenhouse emissions through government leadership and collaboration, mitigating impacts of climate change through resiliency and planning, and transitioning to clean and sustainable energy generation. And it was signed by the Chester County Commissioners in 2021. Next slide. So this is where I said, they're looking to provide us with some opportunities. So they have a municipal page, and they say this is what's out there. We can partner with the county. Several of the municipalities have already reached out to the county. Like I said, there's a group that meets every quarter in Westchester, and that's the Chester County Environment and Energy Advisory Board. Okay. Next slide. And Here, it's interesting that they have given us an opportunity to show you multi-municipal cooperation, so not just Honeybrook Township, but Honeybrook Township working with other municipalities. So they have multi-municipal cooperation. It's benefited several Chester County municipalities. Regional planning and coordination efforts are guiding growth and preservation strategies. Regional approach to public safety and recreation program are providing quality and cost-effective services. So it says, please refer to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Handbook, and you get a link to that. And also, I'm a member of the Chester County Association of the Township Officials. On the executive board, we're meeting with the commissioners next month on some of the updates that they have for us. And then on the next slide, I believe is the last one. And that shows, you see the area in purple? So that's the COG that I've been participating in for about 12 years now. It's grown to about 15 municipalities. What you see in yellow, that is the Westchester Area COG, Council of Government. And they're not showing above Phoenixville as an initiative as well. What we're looking to do is have at least 4 COGs across the county, COG, Council of Government. I've been saying that all along. So in the bottom area, the southern area, we're looking to see if there's an opportunity to do the same. What would be helpful is when the commissioners are going to reach out to the municipalities, instead of reaching out to 70 contacts, they could reach out to 4, and this would end up getting the word out across these different groups. So I did a presentation for Cato last year to show across the country, in California and Texas and a lot of these states they're way ahead of us on this whole concept of regionalizing services. Go ahead.
I'm curious, how much have you guys talked about in this climate action plan, how you're going to deal with stormwater management when we're having more and more 100-year and 500-year floods? Because I'm not really sure if when these developments are going in that they're taking that into consideration. Things are rapidly changing,
yes,
the amount of rainfall that we're getting.
Yeah.
So is it taken into consideration when they're building these huge developments and these stormwater management facilities?
That's part of the process that Morton will go through in all these other developments. Any of the disturbances may cause us, potential dangers to the infrastructure and so forth.
But do they take that into consideration, how things are changing? And so your stormwater management may work now, but in 5 years from now, it's not going to be sufficient.
So to what extent, we're just getting into this climate action plan at this point. But
I think that's an important issue to bring up, especially when you're talking about a community like Honeybrook that is like all these natural springs everywhere.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because we do have a group, the Pennsylvania Council of Governments, and the membership is about 85 COGs throughout Pennsylvania. I'm also involved in that one. So we're, as a PA COG, help guide these COGs throughout the state and provide. We do have a conference in the fall, and the PA COG will be participating with Cato in the spring conference in May. So this is where we get the feedback from the red.
Is it only township supervisors that participate in this? Or?
Well, for the COGs, we do have township managers who have attended, because sometimes the supervisors, they have multiple commitments. So we do have managers. There are public meetings. We had one of the meetings here a few years ago. We hosted a COG meeting. And that was something that I did a few years ago. We used to go to Callan Township all the time, so I rotated, and this gave us an opportunity to see the other municipalities. So this year we were asked if we want to host again, so that's something I have to check with my board if they're interested in doing something like that.
And we talk at that forum about, environmental concerns that our community has in particular?
Yes. I have a standing committee with Westchester County COG on EACs. So we may end up taking the approach, if the municipalities don't want to do it on their own, that the regional COG may have one, and then reach out to the 15 municipalities and say, who's interested? So even if we have 2 or 3 are interested, you know, they would be able to work through that.
But I think it's important to explain to people, all they're worried about, I think, and they hear about this environmental advisory committee, is that it's gonna cost money to the residents. I think the important thing is it could save residents money, and it could save the township money by making sure that developments don't go in and get built without consideration of all these different environmental factors.
And it's not to say that, you know, our existing committees are not doing a good job. It's just there's certain issues and that are coming up. You have board of supervisors here and throughout the state. We're working full time, and we're not the expert on some of these issues. And you know, we have Warren who steps up and provides us with information to get the job done. But, you know, things are changing so rapidly. And the one good thing about having something like an EAC would be that you've got the residents coming in, you know, and giving their input, showing the concerns. In fact, do a shout out. I'm doing a shout out to some of our committee members. We've got Susan Lacey's been volunteering for 14 years. Chip Jones, 13 years. I've got Shane, I think was 12 years. You know, it's like, and all these committee people have not been paid. This is volunteer work, and they have a very strong desire, you know, to look out for the community. So we're fortunate that, for instance, with the Park and Recreation, we ended up, Ray would tell us how, you know, over the years, there was several people come and go, but now we pretty much stabilized, and you guys are doing a great job providing guidance to the board. Thank you. Okay. So this was to provide you with some indication of what this is about. If you were interested to go to the state or to the county websites, and they'll take you in all these different directions. In fact, you get lost going through all these different URLs. But this is one thing I brought up because even though I'm involved here, I'm not really up on this. So I felt that this is something I just wanted to share with you and say, it's an opportunity that if we want to participate, there it is.
John, does the state give the municipality any funding if they participate?
I haven't looked into it that deeply. I don't know if it's, but they have invested a lot of money in all the work they put into it. Yeah. And there are some opportunities for grants for different programs. Usually when we reach out to other municipalities, you know, we get a better chance of getting funding, coming into our municipality. Yeah. And to the point that we heard earlier, you've seen some of the flooding. Like we did meet with West Brandywine a few years ago. State Rep Becky Corbin was there, State Rep Tim Hennessy, we were all there listening to the residents of West Brandywine, because what happened is the bridge was out, if you remember that, and we're looking at exploring all kinds of opportunities. There's a street I think called Hill Street. It's a dead end right before you get to the bridge, and we asked the residents, could you allow us to cut that through and go connect to Brandymore Road? They said, no, we want to keep the cul-de-sac. But right now, they're landlocked, and they were all coming out onto Burdell Road. But the thing is, when Burdell floods out, they're stuck out there. And the one thing the insurance companies don't want to hear is, we can't get emergency services to those houses. That's not good. So, and that's another thing. That bridge was a temporary fix. We know that in 10, 12 years, we may have to look at it. Not we, but Brandywine's got to have to look at it again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hope you found this helpful. So I will be in touch with Ann Hutchinson, and we'll end up having that discussion with the board and share, whatever information comes out of that discussion.